the holidays are rolling around, I always get many questions, and I myself like to gift sourdough for the holidays. So I'm going to show you a few different ways that I like to gift sourdough. And we're going to talk about gifting and making mini loaves as well. That's going to be kind of the focus of this video, but I wanted to show you a couple other things that I do as well for the holidays. So first of all, I like to print off my free labels. I have free labels. You can get them. Check the caption and you'll see information on how you can get your free labels. I have a whole bunch of different themed labels that you can print off. Some of them are sourdough specific, and you can actually print them onto sticky labels. So you can just pull them off and stick them onto your baked goods when you want to gift them. So I do love that. This one is just like a generic Christmas label, and I didn't have my sticky labels, so I'm just going to cut them out and attach them with probably a little bit of string or something like that to my loaves. I love these bread bags. These are great. I keep them on hand so I can easily pop in a little loaf of bread, add on a gift label, and take it out the door to a friend. Another easy way to gift sourdough is to gift some dehydrated sourdough starter. I use these cute little bags and fill them with about 10 to 12 grams of dehydrated sourdough starter. In my gift labels, I have a label that will give you instructions for how to rehydrate it. So that's a really easy, fun gift for a new baker. And then pair it with my new cookbook, The Beginner's Guide to Sourdough. And honestly, this would be the perfect gift for somebody that loves sourdough baking or wants to get into sourdough baking this year. But for people who just want the good bread, let me show you how I make mini loaves. So I have here my classic sourdough. This is ready for me to shape. It makes 2 loaves. So each loaf is about 500 grams of flour and probably around 1,000 grams total per loaf, maybe 950 or so. So I'm just gonna cut this dough into 2 pieces because that's what my loaves would normally be. I'm just gonna let them hang out here for a minute while we talk about how we're gonna cut these up, how we're gonna shape them into like just some mini loaves so that we could gift them. I have tried and failed with these little bread pans. They're perfect if you wanted to do like a gingerbread loaf, not bread, but like a quick bread, or my cranberry orange loaf would be delicious in here. I'm trying to think, oh, I have a cinnamon sugar one. Delicious. But for bread, it's really difficult on the bottom. It can't get the bottom, like the crust just gets it doesn't bake well. You'd have to find a way to bake the bottom better because it's not like a traditional metal pan, so the heat transfer works a little bit differently. So I don't love baking a sourdough bread in this type of flimsy kind of aluminum pan. You may be able to do it if you put some parchment on the bottom and you bake it on like a baking steel or something like that. I may have to try that out. But the things that I have tried, these haven't been my favorite. So I would save these for like a quick bread, not for a sourdough loaf. Okay, so what do I use? I am loving these are from USA pans, but they're these little mini loaf pans. They are great for mini sourdough loaves. And then I also like the freeform loaves, and I just use my cereal bowls. So just find a bowl that's in your house that's a little bit smaller. And so I'm gonna make 2 mini loaves out of one, and then I'm gonna do 3 into these mini loaf pans, so we can kind of see how it works. Now, once you got your dough like this, you can add inclusions if you want to. So I think I'm gonna do a jalapeno cheddar on one, and I may sprinkle in some cranberries and white chocolate on another. You can do lots of different fun inclusions in your loaves. And some people even like to do a flight of loaves, which wouldn't that be cute in these mini loaf pans if you wanna do that? Or just pick one of your favorites and make a big batch of all of that. But we're gonna go ahead and shape these up and get them into their pans. A little side note, after I baked up this dough, I realized that I kind of prefer making 3 mini loaves instead of 2 because they do fit better in my Dutch oven. I'm gonna show you that method in a minute, but if you do want to make 2 loaves, make them about 400 to 450 grams each and bake them separate. Okay, I'm gonna just do some regular loaves here in these bowls. So I always like to line my bowls with a hairnet. And actually, when I'm using a bowl, Let me grab this. When I'm using a bowl, I do like to put a little bit of paper towel into the bowl, and then I put the hairnet on top of the bowl, so it's kind of like a little extra barrier, because what I found is that when I stick this in the fridge, I get a lot of liquid on the bottom, and so the paper towel just kind of helps soak that up. All right, so I've got my cute little mini loaf right there. I'm just sticking it right into here. If you were not using a hairnet, you'd want to nicely flour your bowl so that it will come out okay. Put a little paper towel. I do reuse these hairnets, and I'm gonna just flip this dough over. You can do this with any cereal bowl. Now you can also buy those like cute little mini bannetons if you want to, but you can also save yourself some money and do it this way. If you wanted to make soup bowls for sourdough, you could also do it like this. I actually have a recipe on my website for soup that is, you don't have to do this, you just bake it on a baking sheet, but this is a great way to do it as well. So I've just got these in these two little bowls here, and I'm going to pop them in my fridge, and then I will bake them up tomorrow. I am shaping up my little mini loaves, and when I do this, I'd like to take one loaf and shape it into either 2 or 3 mini loaves. So I've done 2, and now I'm doing 3, so you can see just on these freeform loaves. They're around probably 300 grams a piece. And if you do 3 of them, if you were to do 2, they would be more like, I don't know, 500, well, 450 grams or so, 450 grams a piece. So you've got these 3 little balls here. I got out my little bowls. Now you could use the mini bannetons, would work well for these as well. And then you're just gonna plop it into the little bowl, and we will cold proof this overnight. I'm gonna cover it, and then we'll cold proof and bake them the next day. You could let this rise if you wanted to and bake it in a couple of hours as well. Okay, for my mini loaf pans, I'm gonna cut this one into 3rds because the mini loaf pan, I feel like, doesn't hold quite as much dough. So I've got my cute little mini loaf pans right here. And I'm gonna do my first loaf, and I'm just going to make it a regular loaf. I'm not gonna add anything to it. So I'm just rolling it up like you would kind of a regular loaf of bread. We'll pop it right into my first little mini loaf pan. The second loaf here, we're going to add in some jalapeno and cheddar. And so to do that, I just spread it out a little bit on the countertop. And I'm gonna sprinkle in some jalapenos, and I'm gonna quickly grate up a little bit of cheddar cheese. Now normally I would add in my cheese and my jalapenos during the stretch and folds. I actually have a loaf that is just jalapeno and cheddar, but this is a really great way to do it if you just want like a little kick to bread that you've already made, you know? I'm just gonna roll it up like this, and we're gonna plop it into our pan. And then we've got one last one, and I'm gonna go grab some craisins and white chocolate chips, and we'll do this one, craisin and white chocolate. Okay, last but not least, we're gonna add in a few dried cranberries and a little sprinkle of white chocolate chips. Isn't this like such a fun festive loaf? Again, I would probably add this in at probably the second stretch and folds, but it makes for a great loaf here too. And I am just rolling this up as I would like a traditional loaf, and then sticking it into my loaf pan, just like that. You could also do like a cinnamon sugar swirl, would be delicious, that I use for my cinnamon raisin bread. Any of them would be great. So I'm just gonna cover these up. At this point, now that they're in these little mini loaf pans, you could let them rise completely. You know, another little bit over the pan, and then bake them the same day. I'm gonna cover them, pop them in my fridge, and then tomorrow I will bake them up. And I'll show you the 2 different ways that you could bake them tomorrow as well. There we go. My Dutch oven is preheated. I'm going ahead and dumping these guys out, and I'm going to bake them up in my Dutch oven. You can do 2, or you could probably fit 3. I'm gonna try to fit 3 in there. I'm gonna grab one more piece of parchment to put the 3rd one on, but I just do a little score on them. Nothing too big, but you can, if you wanted to do like a nice score, you could do that as well. A little bit more intricate. I'm gonna pop these into my Dutch oven and bake them up. We're gonna do about 15 minutes with the lid on and about 10 minutes with the lid off. All right, I've got my big giant cast iron Dutch oven here. I'm gonna pull the lid off. Woo, it's been preheating. And I think I can fit 1 more. We'll see how they bake up. Maybe better to only do 2 of them in here, but we're gonna try for 3. I'm gonna put the lid back on, and then into the oven they go. I pulled out my other mini loaves here. They've been in the fridge overnight. And this is how I'm gonna bake them. So I could either put some steaming water in the bottom while I bake these, or this is one of my favorite ways, is take the other mini loaf pan, this comes as a set of 4, and pop it right on top like that. And it's gonna create steam in there and let your loaf rise. So I think that's a great option. And then I'm gonna show you another option that I'm gonna use for these ones, where I'm using my Broad and Taylor dough shell, and that's creating steam as well. And I love using that for loaf pans. I use it for when I bake my sourdough in a loaf pan if I'm not using this method. You could also just let these rise a little bit more and just bake them straight on after they've risen a little bit. They may not be quite as crispy, but they'll still be delicious. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop these into my oven. It's been preheating at 450 degrees. And we're gonna bake about 15 minutes with the lids on with that extra steam, and then about 10 minutes with them off. We're gonna do a quick score right down the middle. This one's the jalapeno cheddar. Oh, I'm excited for that guy. And this one's the cranberry white chocolate. And then the regular. "15 minutes are up." Here we go. It's always the moment of truth when you take that lid off. Oh, those are perfect. Aren't those the cutest mini loaves? They're gonna bake for another 15 minutes, and actually 10 minutes about, till they're nice and golden brown. We'll check the internal temperature. They should be about 205 to 210. Okay, these are just perfect. Perfect size, perfect for gifting. Look at those mini loaves. I'm gonna pull them out, we'll let them cool, and then we can package them up. All right, moment of truth, here we go. Look how beautiful those are. This works so well for loaf pan, mini loaf pans, and regular ones too. And then let's take off the top of this guy. Wow, that rose beautifully as well. Okay, we're gonna let these bake for another probably 15 minutes, and then we'll be able to let them cool and package them up. Oh my goodness, the jalapeno cheddar one totally exploded in the back there. But look at how pretty they are. These are so fun to gift. I'm gonna pull them out, let them cool, and we'll wrap them up. And here we have it, all of our little mini loaves. They're perfect. I am gonna put probably 2 in this bag, but you can even do 1 and just fold it over and staple it closed. Add on this cute little gift label. I've got these free on my website, and you know, I have ones that aren't also like Christmas. Some of them are just like really cute sourdough ones. You can actually print these on labels, which make it really easy to just stick them on. I didn't have the labels right then. Wow, this guy. That makes me laugh. Inclusion loaves sometimes have a mind of their own. So if you're doing inclusion loaves, just be aware. But look how pretty that guy turned out. So these little mini loaf pans are perfect. And then these guys are gorgeous as well. I could have given them, you know, let them go a little bit longer, a little more color, but it could be because they were baking a little close together too. There we go. Beautiful mini loaves. That's how you make them. This came from one of my sourdough loaves. This came from the other. So if you made my classic sourdough bread, you could get 6 mini loaves out of it.